Brad, it wouldn't be a Blazer offseason if there weren't Anfernee trade rumors circulating, particularly to the Orlando Magic, like we've seen these past few days. Every time it gets brought up that Orlando needs a shooter and that Anfernee Simons is from Orlando, particularly when you see him at the Magic game, everyone puts the pieces together that he needs to go to that franchise. And Blazer fans seem pretty eager to let him go there. What do you think about all that?
Well, dude, I'm not just saying this because I think it's known that I'm an Ant fan. It's known that we've kind of been defenders of him. We're not insane that we think he's this like Dame 2.0 or future Curry type of guy. But I think we can say this with some pretty good confidence that right now is not the time to trade Anfernee Simons. Because I think everyone can agree, we need to get better at shooting.
Right.
This is not a defense of Ant as a future superstar, but we need to get better at shooting. And the worst idea I can think of is let's trade by far objectively our best shooter at a time where that's what we need the most. If you saw it as, okay, it's time to hand over the reins to Scoot, it's time to hand over the reins to Shaedon, and we're already a good shooting team, let's do it.
Yeah.
But we are already one of the worst shooting teams in the NBA.
If we trade Anfernee to the Magic, we will become the Orlando Magic.
That's exactly right.
1 year later thinking, damn, if only we had a guard who could create his own shot on the perimeter and was a league-leading three-point shooter on catch-and-shoot shots. We would be like, Anfernee Simons would be perfect on this team.
If we're able to somehow get a few shooters during free agency or during this trade process, or even if we're able to get someone like Knipple during the draft, it's like there at least is some sort of reason to get rid of him if you really believe in Scoot and Shaedon. But there's, again, two issues here. We're already a terrible shooting team. We'd be trading away our best shooter. And it's still not for sure that Scoot and Shaedon are worth that risk, which I hate saying that. That's not saying that as a hater of Scoot or as a hater of Shaedon. We're the farthest thing from that. But realistically, like Scoot and Shaedon still have a long ways to go, especially as shooters. If you put Scoot and Shaedon, two guys who already aren't great shooters, and we can include Tumani on this as well, if you put those guys on a team with less spacing, I mean, that's doing them absolutely no favors. If we do that, I could see 5 years from now us saying like, damn, I wonder what Scoot and Shaedon would have been like on a team with better shooters. Like, think about how much that would have opened up the game for them to attack the basket, to create for others, to kick out to shooters. Taking away Ant isn't just making our team worse at shooting. It's a great way to make sure Scoot and Shaedon are in the toughest position possible. And Tumani. Yeah. I actually think, because everyone's talking about Scoot and Shaedon, I think the effect it would have on Tumani would be the greatest offensively. Because I think a lot of Blazer fans, me included, you included, have been happy with Tumani's progression as a shooter this year. But that has come with statistically Tumani having the easiest shot selection and the 1% easiest shot selection in the entire NBA. Or or 99%. I don't remember which one. Whichever one is the easy one, 99% or 1%. He's had top 10 easiest shot selection in the NBA. And with the easiest shot selection in the NBA has been about a league average three-point shooter. I think that Tumani needs to be in a position where he's taking the easiest shots in the NBA.
Yeah.
Because I think anything more than that, we're going to see a guy who's shooting low 30s again. You look at a guy like Shaedon, who even while playing with a great shooter like Ant, is shooting 31% on 6 shot attempts a game. Something that I don't think gets talked about is that Shaedon is currently, with his volume statistically, and this is not like, I think people get tired of analytics. Shaedon just misses the most threes for how many he takes a game. That's all it is. It's not some big advanced stat. It's that he shoots a lot of threes and he misses more than anyone else given how many he takes. And if you take Ant out of that equation, who I think this is an important stat to bring up, is top 10 in the NBA in offensive gravity. And what that means, for people who might be confused by that, that means that the defenses, based on where they are on the court by advanced data tracking, the defenses are more focused on Ant than they are almost any player in the NBA.
Yeah.
And the only guys who are more than him are guys like Luka, guys like, Jokic, guys like LeBron, Giannis, the top guys in the NBA. You look, it's all like Hall of Famers and then Ant, which shows a lot for how teams play against him, how they planned for him. And you can see coaches talk about this all the time in pre and post game interviews. They talk about how Ant is the first thing they're worried about on the court. And when you have that gravity, that means that all of a sudden everyone's just a little bit more open. If you take out Ant out of that situation and all of a sudden guys don't have to worry about anyone but Scoot, but Shaedon, but Tumani, they can zone in on them. And I am not convinced that that is not just bad for our wins, but I don't think that's good for their development, even with the more minutes that those guys would get without Ant.
I mean, just think of it flat out. Like, what is Denny's game? It's drive through the paint and lay it up, right? Get and one. What was Shaedon best at in the entire league last year? Scoring at the rim. If you want to take Anfernee Simons out of that equation and pack the paint more from an opposing defensive standpoint, you're just going to make it even harder for Denny and Shaedon to do what they're good at. I fully understand what people are thinking when they want to get rid of Anfernee and just be like, we have to. This basically the crux of this team becoming elite is for Shaedon and Scoot, these two guys that we've invested heavily in, to become what they are. Even if some people like don't fully see it, they're arguing that we just have to take that gamble, right? The problem is that we don't have the insurance, we don't have the team lined up for them to take that gamble if you take Anfernee out of the equation. You know when people like drop babies in the water and then they like everyone's like,
teach them how to swim.
Yeah.
Oh god, yeah.
Oh my god, and then they like and then they swim and it's okay. Like
Yeah.
I think that's what people want to do with Shaedon and Scoot. They've been wanting to do it for a while, and maybe now more than ever they're ready for that. But I think you and I are fully understanding that if you take Anfernee Simons out of that, like the babies are gonna drown. We're gonna drown some babies.
We're gonna drown some
trade him.
babies if we get
Especially
rid of him.
if what we trade Anfernee for is, and this is I'm gonna use the Magic and what people have been saying, but if you trade Anfernee for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who the other thing I hear with Anfernee is that he doesn't fit the timeline, which is preposterous because he literally is going to turn 26 this summer.
He's currently the same age as Tumani.
He's currently the same age as Tumani.
Yeah.
It'd be Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who was an awful three-point shooter this past year and really does not fit the timeline.
Shockingly bad. Yeah.
And Anthony Black, who is a questionable at best three-point shooter and a great defender again. Yeah. Could be a good piece on this team, but does not solve our shooting issues. And
He'd be a great piece on this team if this team was built in the exact opposite way.
Yeah. He'd be a great piece on this team if this team had a bunch of shooters.
Yeah, exactly.
Shooting is just so coveted in this league. And, I mean, there's a price for everything, but when it's those two players and the 23rd pick, which, you know, maybe you take like Will Riley and you get a shooter, but that has its own caveats. Like there's taking risks and then there's foolish mistakes that are malpractice.
Yeah.
Right? There's gambling. And I think when it comes to clear as day, letting the one player who is good at the thing that everyone agrees we need go, it's purely gambling. You're just hoping that Scoot and Shaedon figure it out, you know?
And not just figure it out, but be massively improving in their worst areas, which I know people are saying, hey, Scoot made, huge three-point shooting improvements, which he had about a month and a half where he did, but ended the season back to shooting around 31%, I think, for the last 20 games of the season. Shot 31% from three. It is not a for sure thing that Scoot's shot is legit. And I don't think that Ant is the difference between Scoot and Shaedon showing that. We're currently talking about Anfernee as the player he is now. We're not delusional on the player he is right now. He's a guy who shoots, average efficiency. He's a scoring guard who's not a great, even though I think he's, at this point, not saying he's a good defender, but I think he's an underrated defender. I don't think he's the liability this last season that a lot of people think he is. If he was, we wouldn't have finished the last 41 games top 3 in defense. However, I still think it is important to bring up that there's a good chance that Anfernee still hasn't reached his potential. And the numbers that I think point to that the best are his shooting when adjusted for shot difficulty, meaning from the 3-point line, from mid-range, and from the paint. Ant is one of the 3 players who's in the top 5% of shot difficulty shooting from those 3 areas of the court. Right. What that means is Ant takes the hardest shots in the NBA, not because of where they are on the court, but because of how closely he's defended and the level of defender that is guarding him. Still, with the league heaviest defense being played against him, he's about league average shooting percentage. So in a world where we're able to create easier offensive possessions for Ant, he still has the potential to make that next step. Because it'd be one thing if he was shooting these percentage while taking easy shots, like Scoot, like Shaedon, like Chumani do, all who take really easy shots and shoot like, under to average.
Mid to ass.
Mid to ass. Yeah, mid to ass shooting percentages. And then we have Ant, who takes the hardest shots in the league.
Obviously Anfernee has the ball in his hands a lot. That's another phrase I hear thrown around a lot, especially when it pertains to this topic, is ball in his hands a lot, right? And obviously Scoot needs the ball in his hands, Shaedon needs the ball in his hands, Denny needs the ball in his hands. It's these four guys who are all getting the ball in their hands. Their usage percentages are like pretty equal. I mean, I have it pulled up right here in the last 41 games of the season. Shaedon has the highest usage percentage at 25%. Denny and Anfernee at 24%, and the Scoot at 22%. I think we're totally fine letting Anfernee go if Scoot and Shaedon take the reins from him.
Yeah.
Right?
You have to earn it though, dude.
You have to earn it because
I hate this. Yeah.
It's too risky, and it's just not smart to just throw your third pick and your seventh pick in there because they're your third pick and your seventh pick, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. If we were basing this based on play alone and we didn't know where they were drafted, no one would say that we should start Scoot over Ant.
Yeah.
They just wouldn't.
No.
They'd say, wait, you guys want to, but then you look at, he's drafted third.
Yeah.
It's still this idea of potential that is real. But if you're basing it off of play alone, it's a joke.
I get that there's a logjam, and I get that it's hard to figure out. But in my mind, Chauncey just has to figure out a way to put all these guys in the right roles and then have someone, new. Well, it was Denny last year. It's got to be Scooter Shaedon this year. Come out and say, hey, look at my talents. Defense, not fans look at me. Defenses look at me.
Exactly.
Right? Because without that, if you take Anfernee away and then Scoot and Shaedon don't do that, we're gonna fall off of the cliff of momentum that we've been building this whole time. So to me, like, there's a world. I mean, I look at the Indiana Pacers a lot and how they construct their team and how it's free flowing. Halliburton's taken over as a focal point in the playoffs, and he's stepped up his game. But I look at them all the time as a flowing, congruent team that all kind of knows a role that they have. They play hard when they have their opportunities, and their offense, creates for each other because they share the ball, and it's not. No one has the ball in their hands. I mean, Tyrese kind of leads the offense sometimes when it gets to crunch time, but no one is so stuck with, like, I need to initiate the play, or like they're just passing the ball. They're just sharing and shooting and using each other's talents and cutting. Like, we need more of that, of more of playing as a team, and rather where everyone is looking at this of like, who will be the one of the future? Who will be the two of the future? Who will be the three of the future? We need talent.
Yes.
And we need to use it together. We don't need to fill traditional roles. It's so backwards thinking. We don't need to fill these traditional roles where Scoot will get a screen on every single play and then he will pass to Shaedon, and then, like, we need to be a little bit more creative here.
100%.
And we need to balance our talent. And the one person on this team that is a good shooter is Anfernee.
And here's the thing. It also would be one thing if Ant was, playing 40 minutes per game as, like, league-leading wide usage rate while Scoot and Shaedon were fighting for touches. But that's also not really the case either. Ant doesn't really hog the ball. For being a first option who's like, what, you said 70th in the NBA in usage rate?
Yeah.
He's as selfless of a first option as you can think of. He's not hogging the ball for people. And I don't think that's a position we're in. And I think people will say, well, look how Scoot did as a starter this year.
Yeah.
And because as a starter, I have this up right now, he averaged 16.2 points, 6.5 assists, and 3.2 rebounds in 10 games on 48-44 shooting, which is, like, really good. And people are like, that shows how much better he is when he's starting. Because that's a real thing. There are guys who, when put in different positions to succeed in different ways. I don't personally believe that's the case for Scoot because his usage rate doesn't really go up that much when he is a starter. It's just that he's had these 10 games, and if you take out that Nets game, which I think people are going to say that's unfair. You shouldn't take out his best game of the season. The Nets game is when he got scorching hot, 8 of 10 from 3. How many points did he have? 39 points, 39 points and 6 assists. I was at that game. It was one of the worst basketball games I've seen in my
We got
entire life.
smacked.
We got absolutely smacked by the Nets. What was awesome about it, well, the thing that was amazing, was Scoot got scorching hot from three. But it wasn't this like incredible display of basketball, if that makes sense. He said the defense wasn't really trying that hard because they were smoking us. So they're kind of let's do what we want. DA got benched at halftime. Channing Frye then tweeted that we had to trade him. It was the worst basketball performance I've ever seen from a Blazer, from DeAndre Ayton. And Scoot got scorching hot from three. All credit to him. That's awesome. That counts. That's real. But I think that it was such a big game against such a horrible game of basketball that it kind of shadows over how he's played in the other games as a starter, because he went 8 of 10 from three. If you take out that game, as a starter last season, he shot 43.6% from three. If you take out that one game against Brooklyn, he shoots 35%. I don't think it's a fair thing to point out his stats as a starter and say this is proof why he'd be better as a starter.
Yeah. I do have this one theory, too, still lingering in my head. And Shaedon is up for an extension this year. Scoot will be next year, especially when those two guys are so young and raw when they come into the league. Holding them back for a little bit and cutting their value, if the plan is to keep them, because that seems like what the plan is to everyone, is to just give Shaedon the extension, maybe give Scoot the extension. Holding them back for a little bit while we were in the rebuild and making their value less, and then when we re-signed them to a contract, kind of then letting them go, like, why not?
Why not? And honestly, I could say the same.
Yeah,
I could say the same thing for Ant.
Right? Like, let all these guys hold each other back and get them at a cheaper value when we're about to kind of re-sign all of them, and then I don't know, let them go. And like, I know, like, eventually, like, if they're all playing well, then yeah, maybe one of them will have to go. Like, maybe, but like, I don't see the harm in letting two 21-year-olds sit on the bench or get the ball a little bit less until they're 23, right?
Mm-hmm.
That does, especially when all we wanted to do was lose.
Yeah.
Right? And I think maybe that's some people's point, is that we should have let Scoot and Shaedon iron out their kinks, so we would have been a worse basketball team and tank, and then like that's a whole nother train of thought. But I don't see the problem there. I don't see why waiting until we're fully sure that they're ready to go and ready to take over is not an okay and a fine strategy when we're not trying to win.
That's exactly right. Because it'd be one thing if we were risking their development. If you think the risk of their development is Scoot playing 30 minutes instead of 27, if you think that's going to be the single difference maker between Scoot becoming a star or not, Scoot's probably not meant to be a star. You know what I mean?
And the argument that we're really trying to make is that it's better for them to have Anfernee on this team to open up the floor.
Exactly.
And for them to prove it in the moments that they have when they're playing next to a guy who other defenses have to think about, because that's what should be happening when you're on a good team.
And if they show it, then trade Ant.
Yeah, then
you need to.
Because here's the thing, we have the time. I think the thought process is to not just rock the boat that hard, not to blow anything up. And I think the one thing that's on the table for people, I think if we traded Jeremy, not a ton would happen, right? Even though we probably can't trade him. If we traded DA,
sure.
I mean, you and I think we would get better instantly. Trading Ant seems like rocking the boat too hard, and I think just letting our momentum of the last 41 games of the last season carry into the first 41 of this season.
Absolutely.
Get a full season sample size of what we are, what we can do, and then we have the trade deadline to send Ant to the Magic, who are gonna compete next year. They're going to be a team that will be willing to take him on a half-year rental for a playoff push. That opportunity will still be there. And even, I mean, a lot of people, I think, also say, like, they don't want to let Ant walk and us get nothing. I think if we keep Ant through this year and things are going well enough to where we want to keep him, we'll get the opportunity to keep him. And if he goes, and we didn't get a late first-round pick and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, but all that happens is we free up cap space to then give Shaedon the extension he's due for, then that's fine. It's like we're not missing out on the most stuff, right? And so I think, we're not saying Anfernee is for sure going to be a part of this team on our title run. And we're hoping that that's because Shaedon and Scoot rise up and become the players we hope they can be and think they can be, and basically force him out of the timeline. But it is way too soon. It is way too impatient. It is way too easy to just say, get him out of here. Let's roll the dice on our guy, on these two kids, and hope that they can become the future. And the last thing I'll say is that we're looking at the complete wrong part of this team for what is actually the future, when the three guys in our front court are truly what is making us good right now, and we should be doing everything we can to make sure those guys succeed and not worry about these three guards that are giving us all headaches, when really it is these other guys who are the reason we're a good team right now, but no one seems to want to talk about that.
I completely agree, because as much as I love Ant, Scoot, and Shaedon, if they currently were as good as we hope they could be, we wouldn't really be having any of these headaches.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it was like, oh, like we can't trade Ant. Oh, we can't trade Scoot. Oh, we can't trade Shaedon. We set a full season and we still don't really know who's going to be the good one of those three.
Yeah.
Even though all three of them play 27 plus minutes a game. And again, this is what I think the best case scenario is. Because again, they're all getting plenty of minutes at the same usage rate. We've done a wonderful job of making sure all three get ample opportunity to show what kind of player they can be. Best case scenario, we don't trade Ant, and all three take a big step next season.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, we have three really good guards splitting minutes together. They're all three of these guys' potential peaks. I don't think any of those three are going to be superstars. I think all three could be very good players that in a perfect world would be splitting 27 to 30 minutes between the three of each other.
Yeah.
I mean, in today's NBA, that's more important than just hoping that Scoot and Shaedon are
the
superstars.
Guy. Yeah.
It's much more realistic to think, oh, Ant, Scoot, and Shaedon, all three could be really good players who coexist.
Yeah.
Especially when we're seeing right now that they can split minutes, split usage rates, and everyone's happy.
It's a good problem to have, and Blazer fans don't really seem to think of it that way.
Yeah.
And I think, a theme that you and I have talked about, and I kind of hope people are tuning into it, is that the NBA is less so of a who is your best player league and more so of a who is your worst player league.
Yep.
And what we want to have is the best worst player for right now. And if everyone else starts to get better together and someone comes out of the ashes, I mean, you do need like kind of a top 10 player, right? But to me, none of those three guys are what that's going to be. Denny is the guy who is going to put the team on his back and lead us there. So I would rather just have an abundance of supporting cast members that we can pick and choose between. And so giving up one that is the only player that is good at the one thing we can all agree that we need to get more of doesn't seem to be the way to go.
Sir, I love what you just said. Realistically, Ant, Shaedon, and Scoot, all three of them probably aren't ever going to be all-stars. But all three of them could be really good players.
Yeah.
And surround Denny with three really good guards who can, three of them can pass, can shoot, create. You want to risk that when shouldn't even be the real focus of the team? That's such a good point. Everyone is so focused on which of Scoot and Shaedon are going to be superstars. Realistically, neither of them are going to be.
I think we all kind of know.
And I think we all kind of know that.
And I hope I'm wrong. I hope we're dead wrong. Hope I'm dead wrong. But
yeah, but I don't know, dude. And because again, we're not delusional. We don't think Ant's a superstar. But goddamn, dude, we're so bad at shooting. Why would we trade our one good shooter?
That's crazy.
Anyways, yeah.
Well, thank you guys for listening. Again, we will keep coming at you with content during the offseason. We're tuned right in to Blazer Twitter and Blazer Reddit and everything in between. We will watch the draft lottery on Monday and come right at you with our initial thoughts after it happens. We're 4 days away at taping. I think 3 when this gets posted probably. So
yeah.
Fingers crossed. I mean, a top 4 pick would change everybody's mood, but I think we're prepared to find the right guys for us, even if we land at 10 or 11. Yeah. So appreciate you guys. Keep liking it up in the offseason. Hope you're enjoying the playoffs.
Blazers are cool.
Blazers are cool.